Welcome to Makers International, a podcast of makers from around the world, talking with makers from around the world. Here's Jamie Page, Steve Twidell, Chris Cute, and now your host, Richard Morley.
Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good times, whatever time it is, and wherever you're listening, joins me as always, Mr. Chris Cute.
How you doing?
And Mr. Steve Twidell.
Oh, hello.
Jamie Page.
G'day, mate.
And this week's special guest, Mr. Gil Poznanski, and I hope I pronounced that at least remotely like it's supposed to be. Gil, how you doing?
Good, man. It's all perfect. Everything was fantastic. Hey, everyone. Nice to be here.
I think today is going to be a rather bizarre show. We haven't. No, I genuinely think.
What has Gil done to you?
But no, Gil's done nothing. But if anybody knows Gil or watches his channel, they'll be used to Gil asking all the questions, whereas presumably it's us asking the questions, and it's going to be kind of a bit weird. So that's what I meant, Chris. Nothing dodgy. Okay. Wind your neck in. Right, on with as always. I haven't bothered doing the looking up last week's show to do the shouts and thank yous, so I'm going to do it from the live listeners this week, just kind of plucking names out of the hat as they appear in the live chat. So if I miss anyone, apologies. We have Andy Pugh, AH Bespoke, so Andy from AH Bespoke, and Peter Miller, Maggie Billiot, Rubo Arts. There's a few more people in there, I'm sure. PJ Galati.
If you just say the Steves, it will cover pretty much half the chat.
All the Steves, yeah. Because no one's gonna, that's it. I'm glad you brought that up, Steve, because there are actually people listening on like Thursday and beyond. They're not going to know, are they? So there's Paul and Darren and Steve and Andy, Joe, Jackie, Bill and Ben, everyone there.
Margaret.
Yeah. The whole
But
family.
there is only one Steve. Just hashtag I'm the real Steve.
Herbert.
So massive thanks and welcome and hello and shout out to everyone in the live chat. Don't forget, we are live on a Sunday night. So if you're listening not on a Sunday night, then if you get time, you've got patience and the inclination and nothing more important to do, come pop along and watch us live, listen, get involved in the chat, because the chat goes so quick and there's always people talking about stuff. As always, tonight's show is brought to you in part by Yorkshire Grit, the Wood Turners Abrasive Paste, our good friend Chad over at Mancrafting, and Pam from Highland Boxes, who's still giving away one of her awesome, and they are awesome, I've seen them in person, fantastic hybrid blanks. If you wish to know more about the things that we give away and our good friends and sponsors, and then head on over to our website, makersinternationalpodcast.com/sponsors. And Jamie, I believe, puts all the stuff on there that involves all that kind of stuff, as well as probably the garble that he goes on about during Jamie's page as well. Is that right, Jamie?
Yeah, and it's Jamie's page.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I'm going to sing
normally, by that time, Jamie, I normally have a few beers in me, and that goes over better. So please just stop doing that early. Richard, we've got some questions. If you'd like me to go through those real quick.
Excellent, Chris. Do we have any random list of questions from the week?
Why, yes, Richard. Funny you should mention that. And I tell you, I'm gonna give you a little insight on these questions today, and you guys might be able to relate. Have you ever dated a girl and met her mother, and her mother had these questions that, they seem sincere, but what she's actually doing is trying to judge the character of the individual who's about ready to take her daughter out? That's what we're getting today, guys. These questions come from the lovely Mackenzie Rouleau. So Mackenzie, thank you for, putting us in the position to where you're going to size all five of us up today to see if which one of us is actually respectable. None of us.
Try and take out Tony.
Yeah.
We're in trouble.
These are the questions that, the Miss Universe pageant would ask the contestants. Anyway, no, Mackenzie, I love you. Her first question, she has two, gentlemen. There's two, so we'll try to get through these quick if we can. Her first question, would you rather be the first person to explore a planet or Would you rather be the inventor of a drug that cures a deadly disease?
Probably the second one.
Yeah, I'm deadly disease too.
Yeah,
That's what matters. The now.
I'm thinking of it this way. If I actually am the inventor of a drug that cures a deadly disease, not only can I sleep really well at night and feel good about myself, but I'm probably going to have enough money to go call Elon Musk and say, can you throw me on the next SpaceX to Mars? So I think it works out better for everybody if you choose the option B. Yeah.
Well, it depends on whether you died trying out the drug first.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good. But I'd still rather be the inventor.
But then again, also, if you go up into space, you can shut up the flat earthers.
No, they still wouldn't believe it, Jamie. Don't worry about it.
You take a picture of your phone outside the window. Say, there you go.
Maybe you could invent the drug that cures the flat earthers.
There you go.
I'll put my hand up and I'll be like, yeah, I definitely would love to explore a new planet. That's me. But then again, I'm on the other side of the planet, so there you go.
But half of your country basically is like a new planet, isn't it?
Yeah, I wish. There's just too many aliens here, man. It's like, it's like too many strange people here.
So before Chris actually got to the second part or the second option in that question, I was thinking, like with my luck, if I just discover a new planet, it'd end up being uninhabitable even, or I get eaten by some alien or something. So probably the second one, whatever that happens to be. And then Chris said about those drugs and everyone else.
Do you know what happened if you landed on a strange planet, Richard? Everyone's shed will only have scroll saws in it.
Welcome to the scroll saw planet, Richard Morley.
So I was right. It would be uninhabitable.
All right, here's the follow-up mom question for you guys that are looking to date her daughter. And Mackenzie, forgive me for poking fun of you, but that's kind of the first thing I thought of when I read these. Would you rather find your true love or a suitcase with $5 million inside?
Suitcase.
I'm thinking suitcase, because if I have $5 million, I think I could probably find somebody who really sort of likes me. Honestly,
that's enough suitcase to get someone to pretend that they're your true love.
The answer is A. Obviously, I would rather find my true love. I mean, I did find my true love, and I don't have $5 million. I'm happy, so yeah, A.
I'd find a suitcase first, spend all of that money, and then go for B on my own.
Well, that's not a fair question to ask a man that's been married for 26 years.
Well, yeah, I've been married for over 30, so at this point, the suitcase.
So obviously, I found my true love already. So therefore, I would like to find that suitcase with my true love.
There you go.
Booyaka! Did you hear that, Linda?
What do you say?
Linda, did you hear that?
Yeah, I think I'd go with A. It's 5 mils coming, right? And I'm still looking for number A, so we'll see what happens. I think I found it though. That's all good.
Well, to be fair, it really depends on the quality of the suitcase. I mean, if it's
also the currency.
Yeah, because if it's 5 million in Chinese yen, I'll take the true love. Yeah, absolutely. Never mind, because 5 million yen will probably buy me a 6-pack. All right. Anyway, those are the questions that we had. Mackenzie, thanks for asking, and I hope you're able to judge us now in a light that doesn't reflect poorly upon us. Most of us, anyway.
Well, I'll have you know that Moonshine Metalworks has already said that he's found his true love, me.
Oh, the Steves love each other. Isn't that nice? You don't have to change your name if you get married. You can stay Mr. Steve. Anyway,
Mr. and Miss Real Steve.
Two Steves don't make a right.
Because he'll take my name.
See, I'm thinking about now that Gil's thinking, what have I got myself in for? It's Monday morning. I could be going to work. Doing anything.
I know this is going to be hard to believe. Would you like me to get it back on track?
Go for it. Go for your life, Jamie.
I'll have the first question. So obviously, Gil's known or kind of known for doing the Makers Monday over on his channel, which is an awesome thing that he's doing where he features different YouTubers and makers, content creators, etc., etc. And the kind of the format that he does that in is kind of like a flashcard comes up on the screen, then the maker answers said questions of what they like to do, etc., etc. So I'm going to kind of do that now. So here's the question.
Flash, are you?
Boxes or briefs? Good question. Nothing. How's that as an answer?
Commando.
There you go.
Add another one to the commando list. We've got. I think you make 5 now. Commando. Okay, great.
There you go. I wish that was true. But yeah, it's the smart ass answer.
Yeah, there you go. I've got us back on track.
Now that we've gotten that out of the way, Gil, tell us. For those people who are not familiar with you, tell us a little bit about yourself. When Alan was with the podcast, he used to say, give us your origin story. But I mean, take it from as far back as you'd like us to go today, and then bring us up to where we're sitting now. And tell me about Gil.
Sure. My favorite subject. What can I say? Where to begin? Like, my parents were immigrated to Australia, but I won't do that. I won't go. We were joking about it beforehand that Australia was a conglomerate of everyone, a little bit like the US. But really, my story began kind of when I was a 3-year-old. I've thought about this a few times, and my father took me to see a movie that he had heard amazing reviews about. And what that did for me as a 3-year-old was it made me incredibly interested in what I saw on the screen. But as a 3-year-old, I didn't understand that there was something created. I thought that was actually like real, because what you see is what you believe at that age. And as I went through the years, I actually found a real passion for not only storytelling but kind of technical filmmaking. And that's actually the path that I chose. I remember being in high school doing my last 2 years, and I would try to talk the teachers into allowing me to make little video essays instead of writing stuff down, because it just didn't hold any interest for me. But I went into that. I became a filmmaker. I got a master's in cinematography, so you can't get any more technical than that. But I was actually blessed to be able to go and study at UCLA, and then actually go into the industry, the Hollywood industry there. And in a very short period of time, I got known as someone who you could give these kind of problems to, and then let him go off, and he'll come back with a workable solution. And what I didn't know at that time was that I was actually kind of indoctrinating myself into the kind of the maker culture as such by myself, though. It was kind of really interesting. I would go and see someone working on a lathe, and then realize that I could kind of emulate that, or I kind of would instinctively pick up enough that when we needed an adapter that didn't exist for a shot, I could go out there and kind of ask questions and be able to go and work something out. And that was really kind of inspiring. And there's a lot of freedom in that, because when you're working on a big film set, the minute you've got someone walking onto that area, you've already put down like $100,000 just to get all the equipment there and the people there and all the rest of it. So if I would come up with an answer, and I would say, I would have a very Australian mentality, which was like, if it costs a lot of money, go work something else out. But I remember walking in once and I said, I think I've got an answer. It's going to cost us $60,000. They're like, why are you asking us? Just go out and buy it. And that allowed me to have access to a whole lot of different workflows in a really short period of time. And that's where I first saw my first, what they called a rapid prototyper, which is what we know as a 3D printer. Right. So that was kind of, and I did that really quickly, but that's my background. Initially was being able to go out on these projects and kind of either create something that didn't exist before, or go out and actually create a workable answer. With no engineering background, none of that. Like I think in high school, I was like physical education and electronics, and I guess electronics was a bit of a goof because I never really used it in the class or with what I was really doing at work. But being able to be around people, like my best friends were the prop builders and set builders, because they were teaching me the workflow I needed to know.
Question from the chat. You mentioned that you went to see a film with your father when you were 3. Do you remember what that film was?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You said if I didn't want to say anything. No, it's all right. Oh, okay. I'm extremely well known for this, but the film was Star Wars. So
awesome.
It was. You can work out how. Oh yeah, exactly. And ironically, years later, I got to work on one of the films. that film I won't tell you which one it is because it's a shameful film. But yeah, it became full circle in that sense. But in a lot of ways, I've spoken about Star Wars. I actually did my thesis using Star Wars as the model for visual effects, going from photochemical, so film, to digital, which is in the computer. And I've spoken many times about the history of it. I've actually gone in and given. I've been kind of like the narrator to technical works, conversations. So I was really well known for that. And again, it worked really well with this ability to be able to take that technical and just make it common speak to everyone.
Awesome. And if I can do a quick follow-up, and I'll let the other guys chime in here in a second. Let me just get this out of the way. What are you currently employed doing now, Gil?
So right now I'm the creative technologist lead or technology lead for the Department of New South Wales, the education department. So I've kind of gone full circle. When I returned to Australia, I forgot that as much as there's amazing Australian film that comes out, it's all independent stuff. So you can't really get a 9 to 5 to work in that. And I realized in a very short period of time, I had to go and kind of reinvent myself to be able to go and work and continue. Well, I actually found the same engagement in making that I found in film work, which was amazing. Instead of waiting, struggling for 3 years to get a green light, or 5 years, depending on how long it takes to actually get the money together, I could go into my garage or workshop and build something. And if it's a long project, it was 6 months. And if it was a short one, it was a few hours, and then go and share it with people who were engaging and interested in learning about how to do that. And I thought to myself, it's the same stuff, instead of them sitting in a dark room for an hour and a half, I've got them for potentially as long as I want.
Mm. So what was it that actually kind of introduced you to like the maker community then?
So this again goes...
Or who should I say?
Sure. So it goes backwards a little bit. So for me, I didn't have kind of tools in the garage as such. We had a hammer and maybe one Phillips head screwdriver, and that was it. It was a very modern. My father, ironically, is a picture framer, but that was all pneumatic stuff. And as a kid, you couldn't go near it because if you put your finger in it, and there's lots of problems. And in fact, he had someone who used to flick MDF boards away from a table saw, and then one day it bit him. So. It ended up taking off his fingers, and that was like, you can never go near it. So I was kind of more, I was doing this sort of work, but I was doing it in a way that was really reserved. I was doing it because I needed to do it to get to the result. I wasn't doing it as a way to express myself, and I definitely didn't feel comfortable around equipment for a very long time. So I was really more on the computer, designing stuff up, sending it to a 3D printer, or sending it to a laser cutter, or sending it to a CNC mill, because I could be, far away. And then for me, that really changed when I found a group of people on the internet called the RPF, or the Replica Prop Forum. And these guys were going and taking a look at things that were on film, and they were trying to kind of reverse engineer it so you could build your own. So these iconic pieces, especially from a lot of science fiction films. So if you wanted a lightsaber before you could go out and buy one, you had to know that it was a thing called a Garaflex flash bulb gun from the 50s, and you'd find one, and then you'd put all these pieces together, and then you'd have this replica that would match. And from there, I started learning about all the things that I needed to do, really more from a research point of view of what I wanted to do when I was on set, and also keeping up with the guys who I was hanging out with, because they were pouring resin and they were finishing things up that made it look like it was metal and all these kind of things, and I didn't want to be left behind. So that happened around the early 90s. And I continued on that path for quite a while. Coming back to Australia, I was kind of had this big gap. I actually went for an interview with a really famous film distributor here who took a look at all my work and kind of went, you guys, you can do it over there, but you can't do it over here. And I was like, what? And I realized now it was kind of more a deflection because they didn't have the ability to get projects up just financially. Because if you remember about 2000, there was the big IT bubble burst and money was really, oh no, sorry, I'm thinking about 2008 here. So it's a little bit further along. So I actually decided that I'd go and make something here and make something spectacular. And it was around at the time of Doctor Who. was coming up to its 50th anniversary. I'm sure the guys in UK remember that. Extravaganza. I think they took over the BBC for a weekend and made all this new content. And I had met a few people who were also interested in that sort of subject and they reached out to me and they saw these photos on Facebook about this project that I had put together, which was called My Roommate is a Dalek. Just think of The Odd Couple, the TV show. But instead of Oscar and Felix, it was myself and a full-size Dalek that would work and operate. So I built that from scratch, and that was really the turning point. That was the pivotal point where I was able to realize that it wasn't just to get a job done, but it had a further reach. Because we would go out and we'd shoot on the streets. We had one girl who stopped her car in the street, ran across against traffic to come and say hello to us. And the amazing thing was we turned and we saw her car rolling down the street because she had forgotten to put it in park. She was so excited about seeing this full-size Dalek, kind of cruising down the street. And at that point I realized, oh my gosh, like this is the engagement I've always been looking for in my professional work. So we went to the city, we shot scenes. I wanted to emulate a lot of The Odd Couple. I have great memories of watching it with my father as a child. So I had a shot of this Dalek and myself walking down the main street in Melbourne, and someone came up to me and said, "Where did you buy it?" And I said, "You can't buy these." And then they turned around and said, "We're from the city of Melbourne. We're setting up a thing called a makerspace. We'd really love to talk to you about how you made this and see whether or not you'd be interested in coming in and doing some work for us." And I was like, what the hell's a makerspace? And ironically, the next week we were shooting somewhere else. And I ended up meeting some people who I became very close to who ran a makerspace in Melbourne. And they invited me to come down and talk about this project that I had built. Unbeknownst to me, I didn't realize there was a whole guild of people who build these robots, and they all share the parts. So you buy like the head part, you buy the neck part, and I was like, wow, you guys would have saved me months and months of work. But they were astounded that I had done this all by myself. Went in there, saw my first real makerspace, looked around. I was like, what are you guys doing? Like, what's this? And they explained it to me. And as a thank you, they said, well, why don't you just come back? Like, come back for the next month and we'll just waive the fees. And the guy who was the president at the time, years later, said when he was introducing me for a talk, once I asked him to introduce me, and it was really funny because he said to me, he goes, "Gil is the guy who came down to the makerspace once and never left. Like he was there all the time. He was there learning new ways. I mean, this is the way I was able to get a hold of technology like laser cutters. I was trying to learn these new workflows so I could incorporate them in what I was doing. And about 4 or 5 months later, I actually got a job for the city of Melbourne as someone working in the first makerspace that opened up in the library. And then within 4 months, the person who was in charge of that space moved on and recommended that I take it over. So, it was this kind of amazing progression. It flowed. You have these moments in your life where things flow. You don't have to push too hard against it. And I consider myself very lucky for that.
Awesome. That's awesome.
What's a Dalek?
A Dalek is a robot from Doctor Who. For those of you who don't know, it's kind of like their Professor Moriarty to Sherlock Holmes. If you're really curious, if you go on Facebook, his name is Orange Blend, 2 words, Orange Blend, and you can become friends with him on Facebook. And he has way more friends on Facebook than I have, and he sure as hell gets a lot more booty calls at 12 o'clock at night than I do on Facebook, which is it's something I've never really gotten over, the fact that he gets that much attention. But, once a year, I walk down to a 7-Eleven here, which is about 2 blocks, and I take him out there, and that trip takes me, I usually leave about 8 in the morning and I get home about 7 at night because I can't go 20 meters without people jumping out, wanting photos, asking questions. We get to 7-Eleven and people are buying him Slurpees. And it becomes this really kind of cool little thing that comes out, and people are astounded. How do I build one? How do I learn about this stuff? Where can I go? And that project also just really quickly taught me something that I never expected. And that was that I got when I was doing this project for the BBC, I got an email through Facebook. It was a mother whose son had a cyst in his brain. It wasn't cancer. It was just water, but it had pushed like the left half of his brain into the right half, and he had an intellectual disability, and she was trying to raise money because when they would ask him to go and do something, and the pathway. You know, you ask someone a question and obviously you hear it and it goes to your brain, you make the decision, you come back. Because of the physical kind of squashing of his brain, something was cut off. So his father once said to him, because they were watching Doctor Who, what would the doctor do if I asked him to clean his room? And he went off and did it. So they realized somewhere along the line, by putting in that context, it bypassed the physical damage. This guy's name was Liam, and he was about 8 at the time. So they wanted to raise money to bring him to a convention to meet the actor, hoping it would open up a few more pathways. I said, don't worry about it, and I got him a ticket. But one of the other things we did was we tried to bring his story to the attention of the wider community, and he was written up about, and they called him the Impossible Boy, which is part of a storyline that was going on. And I got this email one day, again through Facebook, and it was like, can I talk to you about your son? I'm a surgeon in the US, and I think I might be able to help. And I was like, it's not my son, but let me put you in touch with him. And anyway, it worked out that through that connection, he was able to get some stents that didn't remove the tumor, but brought it down enough that he's now in high school. In fact, I got an email from his mother the other day that he just started year 7, which is in high school. And while he still needs a little bit of help, through that connection, he was able to get the surgery and be able to help out. So I learned in that case, this was something that I wanted to do, which I never thought would have a ramification on that sort of level. But you never know what it is that you put out there, how it can actually help someone else. And you know, to this day, I joke that the Dalek is his godfather. You know, if he has a problem, he'll go out and he'll take care of it. You know, don't make him an offer you can't refuse. But again, that's the power of making. That's the power of creating, putting it out there, and sharing it.
Yeah, that's super cool. I am actually questioning kind of your you being a maker though. I mean, I'm sitting here. And I'm looking at your headphones, and I can see blue painter's tape on it. And everyone knows you use duct tape when you fix something.
Of course. So you know, that's one of the things that I kind of didn't do on purpose on my YouTube channel. I do put out these little kind of projects. Right now, I'm trying to put together my workspace. So a lot of my projects are finding old tools and kind of fixing them up. But one of the things that I really wanted to do was I didn't want it to be just about me. I wanted it to be about all these amazing people that I have met. And that came out of a trip in 2007 that I went to meet Jimmy DiResta at his New York workshop before he shut it down.
Yeah, that's right.
And I was just like, you know what? I couldn't get on planes and just run around the world and meet people, but I wanted to be able to empower these incredible people that I was like, why don't I know about you? And there was a way of being able to reach out. But things, you know, it's been 2 years now, coming up to my 100th episode, and I've got a few ideas on how to kind of bring it back a little bit to me, you know. But I'd rather talk about other people than myself at times.
No, you know what, I totally understand that, you know, and I admire you and your efforts there. But there's nothing that says that you can't continue doing what you're doing with the Makers Monday and interviewing and giving people exposure that you think need it or want it or deserve it, or, you know, just get to know, because we do that every week here. We, you know, with the guests we have, like with you today, it's like, let's get this guy on and find out, you know, or this lady on and find out their story, and let's introduce them to the community. They may know the name, but do they know the person? Let's find out. But at the same time, if you're doing the Maker's Money, there's no rule that says you can't pop in a Gil video here and there, my friend. I mean, you can continue doing what you're doing and stick your own stuff in there, and nobody's going to object. Trust me on this, yeah. Okay? So I don't know that you need to redirect anything. How about just add to a little bit? There you go.
Yeah. Obviously, if anyone does want to be on there, I'm sure we can put in your contact details somewhere in the description or whatever.
Absolutely.
So-
This is another lesson that I kind of learned at film school. I used to have, you'd have assignments and you'd have to make a short film. And back in the day, it was 16 mil film. So, we can now shoot on our cameras all day long. It doesn't really cost us anything. 3 minutes on 16 mil before you even get it processed, it was like $1,000. So you had to, work your butt off to get the money together so you could actually be a filmmaker. And these guys would go make these films and I'd be like, well, where are you showing it? And they'll be like, I'm not showing it anywhere. The next one will be better. And I'm like, you're missing the point. You've got to show it. You got to let, because that's, you make something and then people go, that's really interesting. I want to help you on the next one. And that actually happened to me in the makerspace. I have a really good friend who turned to me one day and he said, can you stop bringing your projects into the makerspace? And I was like, what? Like, did I do something wrong? Is there a rule or something? He goes, no. He goes, I'm working on my project and I see your project. Your project's cooler. So I drop my project and I come and work with you. And I go, that's fantastic. Let me tell you what we're going to do. It's easy. We'll finish my project and then I'll help you on yours. And I got to learn a lot that way because the best way to learn is working through actual projects. So it's that whole idea of being able to get out there. And I think there's a lot of people out there who don't realize the value of what they're doing and how it can affect other people and be an example for them to actually, take action and start creating themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think with that, there's a lot of people don't realize the enormity of the kind of the smallness of what they're doing. And I mean, something that you might consider just being insignificant because you do it every day and you don't even think of it as being a thing, but somebody else sees it and it's groundbreaking for them because they haven't thought about that. And so many people who are kind of reluctant to put videos out or a bit self-conscious about putting videos out, they've all got that potential, that tiny little thing that they do all the time that so many other people haven't thought about, and it's trying to encourage people to do that.
And also to ask, I mean, that's the other thing. It's such an amazingly powerful thing to just ask a question. I wouldn't be speaking to you now if I didn't kind of, and I don't normally get nervous about it, but I was nervous when I did this one, was I wrote Jimmy DeRister a letter just trying to explain to him, excuse me, what I'm all about. And if I traveled all the way from Melbourne, Australia, would he let me in his shop? And I was writing things like, look, I've used a lathe, I've used a bandsaw, I'm not going to stick my hand through it. You don't have to worry about OH&S, because that's what we get a lot of here is like, you can't walk into someone's workshop because they're worried like you'll lose an arm. And that'll be a problem. So, I sent this letter off and I was like, I don't know if he'll say yes or no, because I didn't have a YouTube channel. I had a website that I directed him to show a little bit of what's going on. And I mean, I'd watched his videos for a while, and he was kind enough to go.
I know exactly what he said to you. I know exactly how DeResta answered that question.
2 words.
Yeah.
Sure, no problems.
Yeah.
And in fact, even going in, I said to Jimmy, I'm like, look, man, I'm a bit of a sponge. I love to go and speak to people about their expertise. Again, in the film industry, I would find old cinematographers who literally were in their 70s and 80s and were forgotten. And, I'd go over there for tea and would be, literally drinking tea for like 10 minutes and would be there for 4 or 5 hours because people want to share what they're passionate about. They want to share what they know. And I said to Jimmy, if the first 5 minutes, I said, look, I've watched pretty much everything you have on YouTube. I'm gonna talk to you like we know each other, and in a way, I do know you. And like, I don't want to freak you out, but I'll answer questions, or when we're talking, I'll let you know what I know from what's going on. And I remember this is very early on when Brett was just started his shop assistant, and he asked Brett for a block of galvanized rubber. And I was standing there and I just reached back and grabbed it off and gave it to him. He looked at me and I said, I saw you put it there in one of the videos. And he was like, okay, got it. So because we had that kind of understanding, we were able to like get past that whole, let me see what you know kind of stuff and go straight to, within 3 days, we were like talking like old friends. And I mean, we kept in touch. I know he's very busy right now with a lot of stuff, but that experience said to me, that move out of the garage and start sharing it with everyone.
Yeah, because I don't know, and I do know, because I think all of us can probably relate to this. We all have perhaps a thought or an idea that is something that is spinning around in the back of our head somewhere, and we may have stuck it there years ago. But by watching somebody who might be doing what they consider just, simple, ordinary stuff, and the fact that they were willing to put it out there, all of a sudden they do something that brings that file that is all dusty, that hasn't been thought about in a long time, right to the forefront of your head. You go, aha! And that's the key. That if somehow it sparks something that makes that idea real now, and then that you find yourself immersed in that idea. And it wasn't because somebody did something fantastic that you want to emulate. It's because somebody did something very simple that made that spark in your own brain go, yes, that's it. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's God, I can't say anything more about it. That's lovely. It's a lovely thing when it happens.
Yeah, and this was an interesting one for me because I remember seeing the first couple of videos from Jimmy, and I was like all angry, and I was like, why am I angry? Like, what's going on here? And I realized that in a way I had been waiting for permission to go and just create stuff for me. It was always work related, like that was the legitimacy of it. And he was someone who was exploring it, and he was doing it not just for work. It was just, I think the video that really sparked me was when he made a knife out of a file blade. And I just remember thinking to myself, who the hell is this guy, kind of thing. And then once I caught myself on that, I realized that it had nothing to do with Jimmy. It had everything to do with me. And again, it was kind of like, can I challenge myself to go and create something just because I want to create it? As opposed to, let's say, the Dalek that was a part of a video project or film project or YouTube project, or, could I go and build something that was just for me and my pleasure? And that was totally inspirational based on, coming off what you just said, Chris, which was kind of like, in a way, it was indirectly realizing I hadn't given myself permission to do that. It was always legitimate. I used to have a future mother-in-law who used to say to me all the time, you play. That's all you do is you play. Like you're not legitimate in that sense. And I used to sit there and go, yeah, but the play puts the food on the table, and the play,
Yeah.
puts the roof over our heads. And that's as legitimate as anything else. And that's something that I'm trying to do in my job right now, which is teach the education department that, they talk STEAM and STEM and everyone's got to have a maker space, but they're not too sure on the pathway with it. And STEAM is kind of like science, technology, math, arts, but it's still siloed up. It's still, we do the art class and then we do the science class, and it's like, no. It's when you put all those things together and you're not thinking about it, and that's what makers do so well. You're not thinking about using the tools. You're not thinking about, well, the workflow, I'm going to do this, this, and this. When you get to a point where you can actually just do it, that becomes artistic, and that's what that's where human beings thrive, and that's where our expression comes out. And I'm a huge believer, and this is really big picture, but I believe that if everyone was empowered to create, whether it's through writing, dancing, making as we do it, woodwork, 3D printing, sculpture, sports, whatever it is, I think the world would be a better place because you wouldn't be frustrated, because you'd be able to find these avenues of communication. And ultimately, that's what it all comes down to.
I mean, pretty much everything around us is made.
Absolutely.
And that's, I think, what people forget about. I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's an interstate highway or an enormous suspension bridge or a dam or
the headphones you're wearing and the microphone you're talking into. Right? Yeah.
The clothes you're wearing, and
exactly.
The chair you're sitting on. They're all made. They're all made by somebody somewhere.
Next to you.
Absolutely.
Even the person sitting next to you.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely right. And you can, like you say, you can pull in the science and the engineering from the bridges and the roads and the buildings, and you can pull in the artistic side and the clothing you're wearing. But people don't think of it in that sense. It's just, like you say, playing.
Right. And we have these boxes, and education is very much in a box. And again, I'm kind of, I've got to do it softly, but I've got to kind of try and break that box and let people start thinking outside of, just, teaching something and testing it. And then, students are answering questions, and then you're an A, and therefore, what the subject is.
But that doesn't teach creativity. It's like trying to have a class on, let me teach you and give you a master's degree in knowing how to love. You can't do that. It's like it's the encompassing of all those things that incorporate who you are and what you know, what you don't know, that eventually leads you to that endpoint that apparently you're looking for. And it's not, you can't teach creativity. You can teach the skills that may help you do a project, but you can't teach how to come up with that project on your own. That's an impossibility.
Right. And again, you know, this was my own experience, and it's kind of funny how it all came full circle. But in high school, I was bored because what they were teaching, the way they were teaching, wasn't engaging. They would teach me like a mathematical equation. In fact, you know, this is a great example. Pythagoras theorem. I knew it. I did it in class and I forgot about it. And then about 30 years later, I was actually visiting some people in Canada, and we wanted to build a box. We were actually building a prop. It was Han Solo in carbonite. So we had to build a box, you know, to put the foam casting that he had gotten, and the sides were sloped. And it was like, how do we work this out? And I was like, well, we could put the saw and we could just run things through. And it was like, well, it has to be a certain. And I was like, hold on a second, I know this. And I couldn't remember the formula. So I went to the internet and got the formula, and then we did the math. And then in that moment, because it was a real world problem, I can't forget that formula. It's like ingrained in me. It's integrated into how I think now. Because anytime I see a problem like that, I can go back and work it out. Like I can work out, I've got now the tools. But back when I was in year 10 and doing it, you know, I was just given a set of a formula that I would punch in numbers, and they were like, okay, now you understand it. Yeah, you're right. I did understand it, but I didn't integrate it. Right. I didn't carry it with me. I had to go back and pull that up. And for me, and my definition of learning, it's only when you integrate that you are able to use that as a tool in whatever else you're going to do. Yep. And I think that's what's really missing. And this idea that like school teaches students not to be creative, because when you've got 30 or 20 or 40 students in a classroom, teachers can't give that idea or that attention down. And a lot of things now, you know, I don't know about where everyone else is, but here they'll do things called maker crafts. So, you know, they'll build a bridge out of popsicle sticks and put books on it, and they go, that's making. I'm like, no, that's not making, because yeah, it's something different, right? But it's not integrated into the classroom. It's when the students can come out there and say, great, I've learned this. I'm now going to apply it here because this is where I'm really, really interested in. And then the teacher is able to go and actually not be a classroom monitor, but just be a guide in that area. And that's what I'd really like to see. And that's kind of a little bit of my mission right now, is to try and give these students a little bit more freedom to be able to go out there and actually practice being creative, because that's what we need in the industries.
Gil, are you actually teaching now? Are you having classes? Or are you more of the administrative role over the teachers?
A little bit of kind of in the middle. So I do a lot of my whole focus is teaching the teachers. So I am really blessed to be able to work in an incredible program. It's probably the best program in Australia. The New South Wales government has created a program called STEM Share. And what I love about this is they allow public schools that don't normally have a budget to borrow equipment for a semester. And this could be a 3D printer, or it can be a virtual reality rig, or it can be robots for coding, or it can be, you know, a filmmaking kit, which I get a big kick out of, because they've got a blue screen, and, you know, it's kind of like making YouTube videos and showing students how to empower themselves that way. And the schools can then use it, test it out, and go, this really worked well. Let's go in and invest some of our budget into continuing that. So part of my job is to actually work with the teachers who go in there and actually show them the possibilities. And a lot of my job is about showing possibilities, as well as working with partners like Apple, Microsoft, and Google, and like allowing teachers to understand the power of all this technology in front of us, because teachers are really time poor, and they do an amazing job.
I'm glad that you are. I'm glad that you still are doing teaching of some sort, because if you weren't, I would tell you just from this past 45 minutes we've been talking with each other, that if you weren't teaching, you've missed your calling, and that you should return to it. Because you're very articulate. You obviously are an excellent public speaker, because we have had very little time for Richard, Jamie, or Steve, or I to even have get a word in edgewise. So you handle yourself very well in front of the classroom, and you taught a lot of people. I'm telling you, you've probably taught a lot of people that are watching us today a few things. So I'm glad to hear that in some respect you are teaching. I would just, Gil, I would beg you to continue doing so, because you're obviously very good at it.
Thank you.
In actual fact, there's been a couple of comments out in the chat. One in particular said, anyone else feel like Gil is the best guest this show has ever had?
Thank you. I mean, you know, I'm just passionate about this. To me, everything worked when I found the maker community. You know, that's why, like I said, in 2007, I really put myself out on the edge and just went, you know what, there's some great stuff happening here, but what really is taking off is in the US. And you know, I remember I had 2 weeks and I was like, I don't want to be in the shed. I want to hang out with people who think the same way. And you know, I'm very grateful for that experience. If it wasn't for Jimmy kind of just saying, "Hey, I had a shop assistant, go check Gil out," I wouldn't have had the audience that I have now. And it's a beautiful thing.
Well, Gil, it's been awesome having you on with us. We've got like maybe 10 minutes left in the show, and knowing you and knowing how versed you are as far as the makers in the community, is there somebody who perhaps you can enlighten us to that we may not be aware of that you might want to give a shout out to today, and say, if you haven't watched this gentleman or this lady, then please go check them out because they're amazing?
Absolutely. So the person that came to mind about that is a friend of mine who actually is in Melbourne with me, and he's starting out his maker journey. His name is Dan Gamble. I've been trying to get him on Makers Monday, but he's a little bit shy, but we'll get there eventually. But you can catch him on Instagram. His handle is Curious Maker Dan, and he's starting to pop up in a lot of the Facebook groups. I'm seeing people nod, so they know exactly some of the stuff.
Yeah, I know Dan.
He's in the live chat at the moment, actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
Everyone's giving him a hard time because he still hasn't put out his video for you.
Yeah. Well, you know, hopefully, maybe I'm going to give him some pressure with this, but definitely, I think Dan is an incredibly talented person. What he can do with his CNC machine, which he actually refurbed from scratch, and he's someone who actually reached out to me very early on after being on Jimmy Duris's channel. So we've known each other now for about 2 years. And I think that his stuff is incredible, and it's so great to see him starting to make those moves towards, because I think he's got a lot to give, and I think there's a lot of people who are really super keen on being able to share and learn. So yeah, Dan, go ahead, man, go check him out.
Brilliant. Gil, do me a favor when you get a chance, is investigate Dan's links and then send them to me on Facebook so I can include those links on the show when it comes out Wednesday, so that people can do just that and check him out.
Absolutely,
awesome.
That's fantastic.
Awesome.
Great stuff. Right, do you want me to go on with my shtick now?
Why not?
Jamie's page
is combined this week, and I'm going to stick to the Aussie theme. It's our good buddy Dirk from Sumo's Projects if you're in the UK. He's recently passed 2,000 subscribers, and he's doing a worldwide giveaway. So well done for passing the 2K subscribers for starters. So don't just go over there and just get some free goodies. Go over there and hit that sub button, whack that bell, and go and watch a few of his videos, because he's a decent bloke and he does make some real nice stuff.
Yeah, we've had
Dirk Gibbons. Yeah,
we've had Dirk on with us in the past. So if you want to go back in our library and get to know Dirk, then go check it out. Sumo's Projects. Awesome, Jamie.
Yeah,
thanks.
that's right. Yeah.
What you got?
That is my shout out. They're combined.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Wow, that was super short. Very unusual.
Yeah, I was going to say, what happened to Jamie's page?
I said the shout out on the Jamie's page is combined.
Oh, okay. So in other words, Jamie was lazy this week.
So by combined, you mean
no?
just
It's combined, because I said he's got 2,000 subscribers.
Oh, I get it. Wow.
And announced that he's doing a giveaway.
I'll get back in Jamie's cage.
That's 3 things. Because I normally brace myself for Jamie's page for it to actually be Jamie's novel.
Go back into Chris's corner and go and sit on the noodle step. Oh, wait, you can't.
Well, somebody who I know hasn't been lazy this week. Steve, what about you, my friend?
Yeah, my shout out is pretty simple. It's to everybody that was involved with the McKenna campaign. You all rock. You've kept me madly busy, and for that I hate you all, but for the rest of it, thank you very much. It's absolutely fantastic. I will have total amounts probably next weekend, because it's going to take a week to get funds in and everybody to pay and such like. And then of course Izzy has said that he's going to cover half of that again. So once we know that and we get full figures, then probably next Sunday show, I'll let everybody know exactly how much was raised. But it's looking to be up on $6,000. I think
6,000 plus. Yeah.
Yeah, $6,000+. So you're all awesome. Thank you to everybody that was involved, not just the makers and the bidders, but everybody that shared and supported the campaign right from the very beginning. You all rock. So you are my shout out.
Works for me. Richard, I know you've been busy working in Cambridge. Have you had a chance to find something to watch this week, or have you just been as busy as it looks like you have been?
No, I've just not got a shout. I tell you what, you do your shout out, and I'll see if I can't honestly remember the last time I watched YouTube, so I might have to pull something out from the archives, maybe something off my watch later list.
Well, it's not a requirement. You can skip a week, Richard. It's fine. I mean, because if you haven't actually had a chance, then nobody expects you to give an answer. It's cool. My shout out is from a video that just came out today, and this is my shout out for a reason that Steve mentioned, and it's also a reason because the video was just funny and it was cool. My shout out today goes to Izzy Swan. And Izzy released a video today, Sunday, titled "Making a Manly Man's Cell Phone Holder and a Goat." That's the name of the video. And yes, it is exactly what you think it is. And it is funny, and it's pretty cool at the same time. I'm not going to give it away, but if you have an opportunity to go watch Izzy Swan goof off a little bit, go check out that video. Once again, that's called
It's funny.
"Making a Man's Cell Phone Holder and a Goat" is the name of the video. So go check out Izzy. And needless to say, Izzy has a lot of love that needs to be sent his way for what he's done in the community. And just because he's a cool dude. So check him out.
Actually, I do have a shout out.
Oh, goody. Here we go.
I do have a shout out, and I will just copy the link so that I know to send it to you in a second, Chris. But yeah, this one's actually courtesy of Jamie, because Jamie, you sent me the link to this video from Make with Miles.
Yes.
The 3D printing leather. Young lad called Miles. He's got a channel. He's kind of creeping on the 3,000 subscriber mark, and he basically 3D prints his own logo, but he hasn't actually got a 3D printer yet. I think he goes to the local library or something like that to 3D print his logo, and then he debosses it in some vegetan leather and makes these little kind of coastery, key fobby patches for sewing on things. And the reason I liked it was because I've been toying with the idea of doing something similar with debossing and 3D printing with logos and stuff like that in preparation for Maker Central. But also, more to the point, he had an idea in his head, and he decided, even though he didn't have a 3D printer, he found a solution to it. And I think more people should take that view, which kind of goes back into what Gil was saying about using different technologies and finding these spaces and thinking outside the box and all that kind of thing. So, yeah, that's quite an appropriate one. So, Make with Miles.
Cool. I'm going to check that
Very
one out.
cool.
Yeah, it's a really cool video, actually.
Yeah, well, Chris has decided to get up and leave us. Saying, I mean, he's not as young as he used to be, so his bowels have gone somewhere. I don't know. So we're just gonna have to.
He's bowed out.
Yeah, he's bowed out. Yeah. So he's gonna have to edit. He's gonna have to edit this out. He's gonna have to edit it out. So.
What we could do is we could say something really, not like really inappropriate, but something mildly inappropriate, and see if he even notices.
Yeah, like he's gone for a golden shower. Yeah. So.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah. So, right, it's up to you now, Chris.
You guys know I have to edit this, and I'll hear exactly what you just said when I redo that.
We know.
Right, it's up to your shout out now, Chris. We kept it clean, don't worry.
I already gave my shout out. It was to Izzy. How about we take the next 3 minutes and just thank Gil so much for being such a great guest for us today? Because Gil, thank you very much. I know that I'll give you a quick backstory, and Gil can elaborate before we close this thing out. Is Gil had contacted me a while back to see if I wanted to be on his Maker Monday program, and Gil can probably relate the story, but I don't feel comfortable talking about myself, so I said no. But I said, Gil, tell you what we would do is, if you'd be willing to do it, how about we interview the Makers International podcast as a group, and then you can put that out as a Makers Monday. And he said, well, we could do that. I said, well, You should probably come on the show with us before we do that. So that's why Gil's here today. But man, what a great interview today, Gil. Thank you.
Yeah,
I bet he's
very,
changed his
very
mind
good.
now.
Thank you, guys. I just any chance to share my passion and what I love doing is always an honor. So thank you so much.
Very cool.
Gotcha. Cool. That's awesome coming on and chatting with you. I agree with what was said in the chat. I think you've been one of our best guests. I've thoroughly enjoyed listening to your side of things. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much. It's I know I'm kind of so far away. It kind of I feel a little bit cut off from everyone, but being able to come and speak to you guys, face to face after hearing your stories for so long, it's an absolute thrill. And hopefully, if I know Makers Central's coming up, and I was like, if I turned up, would anyone kind of really want me to, would they notice?
Hell yeah! Come on, come over.
Yeah. Well, you know what? These are the moments. It's like, let's see what I can do.
Yeah, there you go.
If you can do.
Kick your ass if you don't.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? We'll do a Makers Central in Australia. I'll just stay here, and you can come visit me.
Sound no problem.
Oh well, my sister will be moving to Australia soon, so.
Oh, okay. So yeah, now you know two people.
Yeah, we heard they let Jamie types in.
Yeah.
Mate,
Wow.
If they didn't, there wouldn't be anyone here.
That's only because the whole country is trying to kill you as soon as you try entering it.
Wow. Richard, wrap this up, please.
Oh dear! I wish someone would wrap Jamie up.
So good.
Awesome. Well, we've already said it, Gil. Thanks for coming on, and
Thank you.
thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks to everyone over in the live chat. We've already kind of briefly mentioned a lot of you. I know some people have just kind of pulled in right at the end, but we do try and stick to a rough schedule. If you are still listening, thank you very much. If you're not, we'll say what we like about you. And in the meantime, you all take care, and we will be back here probably live-ish about 9:30-ish next Sunday, or sometime in between on your favourite fruit-based media player. So until then, you take care.
Have a great week, everybody.
Take it easy, everyone.
Bonza!